right, welcome back to another Field to Food Table Talk episode. We're going to pick up from where we left off last week. We were talking about cooking squirrel and wild game and some pheasant conversation, but I think we're going to talk a little bit more about deer this week, which we kind of started to, and then we jumped right into squirrel because we're a little obsessed with squirrel this year. That's our fault. So you have all this deer meat sitting in your freezer, and you're asking yourself, what am I going to do with this? I started off last week by saying every day run-of-the-meal cooking, we favor two things with it. Just your Italians and your Mexican. We cook venison so much for both of those. Just because, and not to say that it's if there is a bad flavor, this your aim is to steer away from that. But when you cook something Mexican or Italian, it's going to be smothered in sauce, cheese, salsa. So if you have picky eaters, or if you're not craving that specific deer taste, you're honestly going to bury it, which is not a bad way to do it.
Yeah. Anything ground, you're going to bury in seasoning.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Very rarely have I ever done anything with unseasoned ground meat. And we got a 5-year-old in the house. He's picky. Mm-hmm. He loves tacos.
You can never go wrong with deer tacos.
Nah, he don't like the smothered meat like we do.
Oh, really?
No, he's like, put some Ortega on top of that, put that stuff in a tortilla, and give it over here.
Oh, that's right. At least he's eating it, though.
A little bit, yeah. Still trying to work on other stuff. Like, he won't try any other wild game. If it's not deli meat turkey or a dinosaur nugget, and he's like, get that stuff out of here.
So our last deer that we got, which was muzzleloader, just a couple weeks ago, with my wife Casey now being absolutely white girl obsessed with sourdough bread. Thanks TikTok. The last deer, aside from a couple of cuts, and we had hot dogs made from it, because we actually took this to a butcher because I got sick the next day. It was freezing cold out. The skin had frozen. I was not going to mess with that deer. I was a little lazy. We had hot dogs and trail or summer sausage made. I don't remember which.
One of the two.
Yeah. Either way, I had all the steaks, which come in a muscle group. I never once had a steak made out of that deer. It is all going to be roasts and backstrap, and everything is going to be turned into sandwich meat, because if she's going to be making this much bread, right, I'm not going to go to the store and buy that much lunch meat.
Right, yeah.
We can do it here in the house. So the goal for that, I think you guys have both had the venison ham leg here before, right? I know you have. Yeah, I don't know if you have. It would have been one of the first podcasts in 2024.
Is that the one we were all like, oh my God?
Yeah.
It's almost like French dip. No,
that was a different roast. It was a whole leg, and I just started carving on it. Yeah. It was kind of sweet. It was a lot of brown sugar.
Yeah, that was heavenly.
So yeah, whatever you made, I've never had a bad.
Do that more often.
So. So we'll be doing a lot of that. We're going to do some pastrami's this year, and there's so many things that you can do with a deer, especially if you just want to do quote unquote roast beef sandwiches. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with doing deer for that.
Yeah. I did that just a few weeks ago, and I was texting you. I just did a whole big. I made 10 pounds of Hungarian and cooked it in casings. And then cooked it to 165 in the middle, took it downstairs, put it on the meat slicer, cut it real thin, and then put it in 10 in a pack and froze them.
Yeah.
So now I have lunch meat I have Hungarian lunch meat for, a good while. Yeah,
and it's so simple to do it that way. And if you're planning on cooking whatever, whether it's deer or not, like if you're going to have the oven on at 350 for 30 minutes, plan ahead and have that stuff that you need to cook to a certain temperature for those lunch meats. Just toss it in with dinner and then pull it out. And then once you're done with the dishes and stuff, it should be cool enough to wrap and toss in the fridge. Yeah. It's just an easy way to do it.
Just don't be like me and put it straight on the rack. So when all the fat drains, you have to...
Don't do that.
Then I had to do the oven clean. That got smoky. And everyone was mad at me for a few days in the house.
So I don't know how much have you guys have made with lunch meats and deer and stuff, but are you guys ever trying to steer away from the nitrates when you're messing with jerky and whatnot? Mm-hmm. Like the pink salt number 9?
I don't use a whole lot of talking about meat curing.
Yeah.
I don't use any of it.
No.
I stay away from it.
Reason being?
I eat it quick. I'm not making it to last forever.
Yeah.
I'm not going to keep it in the fridge for 2 weeks. If I make something, it's going to be gone in a day or two.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't make great big batches of jerky. I make small, like, I want some jerky this weekend.
Yeah.
I'll make enough for, if I'm going hunting for a weekend and I know I want something to snack on while I'm out there, I'll make, a pound. Nothing crazy. I don't make like the big 5-10 pound batches where I need to put that meat cure in so it stays better for a little longer.
Yeah.
And then anymore, I actually like the flavor of the low sodium. If like I'm buying jerky mix, I'll buy low sodium.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because some of it's just ungodly salty.
Anything from the store, like we had Bob Evans sausage a couple months ago, and it was the saltiest thing that I ever had in this house, and it was awful. And she added a pinch of salt to it, and she thought it was her, and I was like, "Honey, this wasn't you. This was the sausage."
Yeah. So I don't do the meat cure. If I buy the pre-mixed stuff, I don't use that packet. I don't use the pink salt number 9.
Yeah.
Anymore, I'll make my own blend.
So we typically use the curing salts for the reason being is that these upcoming months, February, March, and the beginning part of April, prior to turkey season, that'll be on the next episode, by the way.
Oh joy!
Come on.
So these next 11 weeks, this is all the stuff that we have in the freezer. It is sitting quote unquote raw right now because there's nothing done to it. It's just frozen meat. By the end of March, that's all going to be produced meat. It's either going to be sausage, it's going to be ground, it's going to be lunch meat. This is what we always save this time of year for. Which there's honestly nothing else to do. Like season's just about to close. I mean, we don't antler or shed hunt too much. Like sometimes we'll go out, but I'm not like addicted to it. Like I probably should spend more time doing it because you can definitely learn a lot about buck patterns from it.
Right. But
we're not having bad seasons buck hunting, so I'm not.
Just be like me and shoot 1,000 arrows a week on a recurve in your basement.
We'll probably be talking about that later too. So when it's this time of year, like we encourage you guys to definitely spend the time and not let that meat go bad and find creative ways to use it. There's a bunch of cooking books out there. Obviously, the meat eater ones are the big ones.
Meat eater, and I'd say Hank Shaw.
Hank Shaw, like definitely dive into his stuff. I got a Hank Shaw book from the Pheasants Forever event back in yeah, and
and another thing, you don't need wild game cookbooks.
No.
If you have ground meat or a steak,
you can use a cookbook.
You can use any recipe in the world.
Or TikTok. Or
I have a buddy
Instagram.
that legitimately uses ChatGPT to find recipes.
Really?
He'll ask
you can use ChatGPT for anything.
He'll ask you. He's like, hey, what's the best way to cook this cut of meat? And he'll give him like 5 options off the rip. He's like, that's how I cook. I use this. And anymore, I'll just type in on Google. If I'd never cooked something, I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I never made homemade chicken noodle soup before. I was making squirrel noodle soup the other day. I'm like, all right, what's the best way to make this? And just found her. I'm like, okay, swap out the word chicken with squirrel.
Yeah.
And you're fine.
Yeah.
You're good to go.
That's exactly what I do with pheasant.
Yeah, because pheasant, I never got too crazy with pheasants. I always either just fried them and made like McChicken with it, or I would cut them up and make like, I put it in like fettuccine alfredo and have that. I never got too crazy with like the pheasant was the standalone center dish on a plate. But I want to. I'm super upset we didn't go pheasant hunting because I had like 3 recipes lined up I wanted to try.
we still have time. Our pheasant hunt got canceled because of the snowstorm stuff that has been coming through, and that I'm glad we skipped that one because that one was probably going to be a little dangerous. Yeah. And those roads were icy.
I don't know if you've ever. I know you've been down there before. You have. I don't think you have.
I've hunted that area separately from
dirt
stuff.
roads and cow patties as far as you can see.
Yeah,
and a lot of horse poo in the middle of the road. That stuff. I hit a pile of that last year. That stuff's slicker than you think.
Yeah, I think there's a saying or two that goes along with that.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if there's like that. I mean, we can talk into depth about stuff for some of the cooking about and making sure that you dry your meat if you're going to do steaks, get as much moisture off of it as possible because you want that Maillard reaction to happen, and moisture, water is antagonist for that process.
Do you get your steaks to room temperature before you cook?
No, because our steaks are pretty small because we butcher them ourselves. We have, I mean, if our steaks are about
palm size,
and we're not trying to overeat, and we want our deer to last as long as possible. So not really that because we'll flash cook it, and then let it rest, and then we'll poke it. And if it needs a little bit more, because you can tell how done it is by touching it, we'll just toss it on for another minute. Which it's actually, that one's a little controversial in the cooking world, just because you're cooking it twice. But you're really not, as long as you let it rest and lose temperature, you can keep doing that. It's not going to change. It's not going to change anything.
I always let mine get room temp. I'll take them out I'll take them out of the fridge about a half hour beforehand.
So what's your go-to steak seasoning for
Salt and pepper?
Salt and pepper.
Salt and pepper. I always put a little bit of oil, a little bit of butter in the pan.
Yeah.
And I might throw some garlic in there with it. I'm not a huge steak seasoning guy. The best seasoning, if I use a seasoning, there's a little restaurant down the road. The owner's the nicest guy in the world. And I told him, like, the steaks he has, I'm like, hey, these things are amazing. What's your secret? And he gave me a little thing of his. He's like, this is my seasoning I make.
Yeah.
Every now and then I'll throw that on if I'm feeling frisky. But other than that, I don't go crazy with my steaks.
Yeah, same. We're salt.
If I eat a steak, I'm a big side guy. I'm liking potatoes. I'm wanting something green on the plate. I want a meal with a steak. I want other stuff I enjoy. I'm going to put all my effort into the steak and then throw 2 subpar sides on the plate. I want to make everything good.
Yeah, it's like build it up.
I don't want one thing to overshadow another. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I don't get crazy on the meat.
Which we had a couple years back after a gun season, we had a deer butchered for us, and the meat, it stunk. Like, it wasn't soured. It was just not taken care of in the butcher, which we don't blame them, because there's 120 deer lined up on Friday of gun week. Like, they're not going to take their time or put as much effort into each deer as they can, because they just physically can't. We get that.
I've noticed that too when we were going to processors. If we shot a deer early bow season, it was taken care of better than a deer we shot in gun season.
Yeah. So that deer, we did a lot of doctoring to the steaks. There was always a couple cloves of garlic in the pan, rosemary sometimes, salt, pepper for sure every single time, butter, and then what else would we do in there? Oh, if it was really stinky, because we had a couple steaks, we would put garlic powder on it prior to cooking it.
I've done that too. I've tried marinating them. I got bit by the sous vide bug this year too. I sous vide a lot of steaks. It's just cooking them in. I'll do that. I'll sous vide them to about 105, and then flash them in the pan for a minute, and take them out. They're perfect.
Yeah. But
now, if I do that, I'm not opposed to putting like a marinade in the bag before I drop it in.
Well, yeah, that's fair, because especially, I mean, you can even do roast like that too, and really change the flavor of a roast.
Oh, yeah.
We did sous vide turkey breast a couple weeks ago, and those turned out so delicious. Actually,
if you have the time to do it, it's the best way.
Yeah.
I love it.
And it's really hands off, because it's not like a crock pot to where it's going to get to that really elevated temperature. It's going to be whatever you set it for. You can walk away for hours, and it'll be.
I'll let mine cook for. I know a lot of guys be like, 45 minutes, that thing's ready. I'll let them sit. I've learned the longer you let it sit in there, the more tender it gets.
Yeah.
So there's times I've cooked steaks, I've left them in there 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And they just melt in your mouth when they're done. I've cooked them, and people are like, "There's no way this is deer." I'm like, "Swear to God, this is deer meat."
Yeah. They do come out a little funny looking though.
They come out
a little gray
before you fry them. Yeah, you're like,
is this safe to eat? Yeah, that's just part of the process.
Yeah,
just keep on going. It'll look good at the end.
Like you blow this out of your nose. You're like, "Swear to God, it's good, dude." Just try it. No, but a lot of times when I do sous vide, I've gotten creative. Red wine vinegar, lemon juice, stuff like that. Some awful stuff you wouldn't really think about using. Just like, I'm just going to cook a steak in the pan with. But like when you talk about marinade, like I'm not.